Hello everyone, my name's Matthew Wainwright and I'm a time tunneler. Today I'm going to talk to you about London's Lost Palace. Now there are many palaces around London and England and you can visit some for yourself. I'm talking about palaces from the Tudor times of King Henry VIII and Queen Elizabeth I and Anne Boleyn. You might know some of them like Hampton Court Palace, which is very famous. But the palace I'm going to talk to you about today is a lost palace. You can't see it, you can't go and visit it, although you can go to the place where it once was. And this was Greenwich Palace, or the Palace of Placentia. And it was built about 100 years before King Henry VIII was on the throne, but it was one of his favourite palaces. He lived there for a long time. And it was built on the banks of the River Thames in Greenwich, in London. But you have to remember that at that time, Greenwich wasn't part of London like it is now. It was a small village all the way downriver. And King Henry VIII would love to sail down there to visit his lovely palace in the summer. And you can just imagine this big, beautiful Tudor palace with lords and ladies in their long dresses and men in their hats and their doublets and all of these things, and the music playing and the great feasts and the lovely sweep of the hill of Greenwich Park behind. Now, if you go to Greenwich today, you won't find the palace there, like I said. You'll find a place called the Old Royal Naval College, which is a part of Greenwich University. Here's some pictures. That building was built a lot later, in the 1600s, because Greenwich Palace had fallen into disrepair and it was neglected by that time, and it was knocked down because the king at the time, Charles II, thought that he would rebuild it, but he didn't in the end. They ended up building a hospital on the site, and that hospital became a college and is now part of Greenwich University. But if you visit there and you have a look around, you won't see any traces of the palace except on the riverbank. And if you go down, all the way down onto the riverbank at low tide with a grown-up, don't go by yourself, and you look very carefully, if you stand right in front of where the Old Royal Naval College is, those big white buildings, and you look in the mud and the sand, you'll see rows of wooden posts standing up, if you're lucky. And those wooden posts are the remains of the old Tudor jetty, the long wooden plank that would go out into the water where all the boats could draw up and moor up, and all the ladies and gentlemen would get out and go into the palace. That's where that was, and you can see the remains today. That's all that's left of Greenwich Palace. But people have done some research and they've drawn pictures of what they thought it might look like, and there's a lovely video where it's a sort of virtual tour where you can tour around what Greenwich Palace might have looked like, and they reconstruct that lost palace. And I think that's amazing. As a historical fiction writer, I love thinking about old places that are lost to us now, that we can revisit through history, through doing research, through looking at pictures, and even through writing books. And that's what we as historical authors love to do. We love to write books to help you travel back in time and visit these places and meet these people. So for your writing challenge this week, I want you to become a real time tunneling author. Now there's a few parts to this challenge, so pay attention. The first part is I want you to find a ruined place, maybe near your school or near your home, or maybe a famous ruin somewhere in England, a ruined castle perhaps. Second part of the challenge is I want you to find some pictures of what it looks like today, all the little nooks and crannies, all ruined and broken down. Maybe it's not even there anymore, like Greenwich Palace, so maybe find some pictures of what is there now, and do that online with a teacher or with a grown-up. The third part of the challenge is to try and find some pictures of what it might have looked like in the past. Sometimes you can find pictures and paintings that were done at the time. Sometimes people have done things which we call artists' impressions, or illustrations of what people think it might have looked like. So you've got your place, you've got your pictures of what it looks like now, you've got your artists' impressions. Once you've done all that and you've really had a look at all the details and tried to imagine what it might have been like at the time, I want you to write the beginning of a story. And in this story, you or your character is walking through the place where the ruin is, or where the place used to be, and they're looking around at what it looks like now. And then your character finds something buried in the grass, or left lying around, or like with Greenwich Palace, at the banks of the river, you can find things in the mud. You can find chicken bones and things that were left over from Tudor times, and bits of pottery. And they your character finds something. When they touch it, they're transported back in time to when the palace or the place was still there, or the castle was still there in all its glory. And I want you to try and describe what that's like and the difference between what it's like now and what it was like then. And if you want to, you can carry on the story and have a think what your character or yourself might do in that place, and what sort of adventures they might have and who they might meet. So good luck with your writing challenge, your time tunneling writing challenge. And if you're ever down in London, in Greenwich, see if you can take a walk down by the old Royal Naval College and see the remains of London's lost palace. Happy time tunneling. Bye-bye.